Finding ways to take care of yourself or cope in life after loss can feel really impossible, especially when you are emotionally exhausted or you have very little money to work with, which is true for more and more people in 2025. So this is an episode that I created to remind you that finding comfort in grief, accessing support in grief, caring for yourself in grief does not have to be complicated or expensive. Hi there, Grief Growers, and welcome back to Grief Grower. I am so honored to be with you here today, as always. If you've been growing alongside me in my work for a while, welcome back, and if you are new to me and my work, hello. My name is Shelby Forsythia. I am a grief coach, very soon to be 3-time author, and the founder of Life After Loss Academy, which is an online program that has helped dozens of grieving people stop feeling lost, stuck, broken, and alone, and start building lives that they genuinely love from the lives that loss forced them to live. This includes not only death-related losses, which so many people think of when they think of grief, air quotes, this time of year, but also losses like divorce and breakup, major diagnosis, and every single other loss that changes our lives. Here on Grief Grower, we believe that grief is not something to get over. It is something that we grow with and alongside for the rest of our lives, and that when we stop treating grief like a problem to be solved and start treating grief like an invitation to live more deeply, we create meaningful lives that are rich with the memories we carry, all the struggles that we faced and the lessons we had to learn from them, and the preciousness of what it is to be alive right here and right now. Before we get into the show today, just a quick note that there are still tickets available for my December 4th event in Toledo, Ohio. So if you would like to learn how to stay connected to a loved one who has died and form traditions that honor your grief, especially if you are caring for children, teens, if you are kind of the the orchestrator, the lead camp counselor of an entire household that is trying to remember someone who has died, this workshop is for you. It is happening once again December 4th in Toledo, Ohio, and I would love to see you in person there. You can find more information at the show notes or by visiting shelbyforsythia.com/events. And this is happening in partnership with Good Grief of Northwest Ohio. I truly hope to see you there in the audience, and I would love to meet you in person as we learn how to remember our loved ones during the holidays and beyond together. Okay, the topic of this week's episode is one of my favorite things to talk about because it is a question I get very often of like, what actually helps with grief? What are things that help with grief? So the purpose of this show is to just sort of run down a list of 10 activities for grief that are comforting and are free or low cost. Because when you're grieving, a lot of times really simple things can feel overwhelming. I'll give the example often of after my best friend died suddenly in 2022, I remember like trying to muster up the wherewithal to go to the grocery store, and it felt like I was literally moving mountains. In my first book, Permission to Grieve, I refer to life after loss as wading through the mud with iron boots on. And if you're listening to the show, I imagine you can relate to that. When the world, the society that we live in, expects you to keep functioning, while your inner world, everything that you knew to be true, or know to be true, has shattered, finding ways to take care of yourself or cope in life after loss can feel really impossible, especially when you are emotionally exhausted or you have very little money to work with, which is true for more and more people in 2025. So this is an episode that I created to remind you that finding comfort in grief, accessing support in grief, caring for yourself in grief does not have to be complicated or expensive. And one of the biggest reasons that I wanted this to be out on the airwaves is that society often jumps to, maybe you should talk to someone, aka you should go to therapy after a loss, or you should get grief coaching, or you should pay for group support, or you should get some kind of deep, intense, you should go on a retreat, you should go on a vacation, you should go to this blah, blah, blah. A lot of people do not have the money, the time, the emotional capacity or ability right now because of the season that they're in, because of the grief or the loss that they face, because of their life circumstances, to access paid I'm talking about time, that's a long time, 50 minutes is a long time, or emotionally deep support, high touch grief support. So If something like therapy or coaching or intensive grief support or taking a vacation or going on a grief cruise or attending some sort of retreat that is thousands of dollars and a lot of time off work is not accessible to you right now, I want you to have things in your pocket at your disposal that you can do to support yourself in grief that are free or low cost that often you could do. You could pause this podcast and do them right now. So these 10 activities are things that I have done in my own grief, that I have gathered from clients and students inside Life After Loss Academy. And I want to make it very clear that they're not about fixing your grief. Nothing we do here on Grief Grower is about fixing your grief. They are about helping you cope with life after loss, helping you process your emotions, help you find expression for your pain, and helping you create moments of relief or connection or grounding or presence or rest. And these can all, in their own individual ways, serve as tiny little lifelines that can help you feel more human and more like yourself, even in the midst of heartbreak. And whether you do them in tandem with therapy or coaching or counseling or support group or retreat or vacation or whatever it is that you're pursuing in grief, or you do them by themselves, they are valuable and helpful. So I encourage you to listen to the whole list, pick one or two favorites and try them and see how your grief responds. Let's get into it. Okay, number one is one of my wife's favorites, and this is why I put it first. That is go for a walk outside, even if it's just around the block, because grief lives in the body as much as it lives in our hearts and minds. And a short walk, I'm thinking like 5-10 minutes or less, can help you regulate your nervous system and shift your energy and your mood into a different place from where they are right now. And my favorite, because I'm an extrovert, is to reconnect you with the world outside of your head. Something that I learned from Megan Riordan Jarvis, who is a grief therapist and the author of the incredible book called End of the Hour, and it's like a therapist's commentary on grief, talks about the importance of bilateral movement, which is basically a fancy way of saying like you're swinging your arms and your legs and they're going in different directions. That is intensely regulating or stabilizing, to put it more simply, to a nervous system that is overwhelmed by grief. So walking is intensely helpful for life after loss. And something that I have to say, as a person who has faced disordered eating in her life, you do not need to make this a power walk where the goal is exercise or burning calories. You do not even need to count your steps unless that sort of measuring is helpful to you, or you like that like gamification of counting steps in your brain, or if you have like an app that helps count it for you. If that's fun for you, go do it. If it's not fun for you, don't worry about it. You have enough to worry about as you are grieving. What I want you to do, the goal of this, is to spend a few minutes outside, even if it's just like barefoot in your backyard. I don't know what season it is for you right now, but it is winter in Chicago and I ain't going nowhere barefoot. But if you are able to go barefoot where you are, sure, absolutely. Even doing that can bring some sort of sense of movement to feeling emotionally stuck. And as we've talked about in past episodes of Grief Grower, stuck is the number one word that people use to describe your grief. And again, if you are an extrovert like myself, but you are also grieving, you might consider inviting a friend to go on a walk with you, or to take a pet for a walk with you, or to choose a nearby destination like a library or a coffee shop or a beach, where you commit to smiling at or saying hello to one person before turning around and heading back home. My wife and I often joke that I like walking, but I like walking with a mission. I have to have a place to go and then to return to. And so I really enjoy going down to our coffee shop at the end of the street for a cup of hot chocolate and then walking home, or I enjoy going to the library to return some books and then walking home, or I enjoy going to the beach to look at the water or say hi to my friend Tammy and her memorial bench and then go home. So I really like having a walk with a mission. But if you're a person like my wife who can just like go for a walk for the sake of going for a walk, more power to you. And it is so helpful in grief. I will say, if you are not able to walk due to disability or the weather where you are, it's getting ready to snow here in Chicago, consider opening the windows and breathing deeply for 60 seconds, or doing other bilateral across the body movements, things like swinging your arms or marching in place or circling your wrists and ankles or like stretching your neck. These are all things that are very helpful for grief and sort of remind you to like zoop, that's not a word, but to zoop back into your body and to remember, because I often forget this, that, oh my gosh, there is a whole world outside of me and my grief. And that is something that I always have access to and that I can go be a part of at any time. Okay, number 2 is to stretch or to try gentle yoga at home. And yoga, stretching, things that are not strenuous in like the body movement nature can put you back in your body, very similar to walking, when grief makes you feel numb or disconnected, like you are not a part of this world. There is a man by the name of Paul Denniston, who is the founder of Grief Yoga. He has a book called Healing Through Yoga, if you're interested in it. And this is a grief-informed guide for doing yoga and moving your body after loss. And it has tons and tons of pictures and lovely little passages about this one is helpful for heartache or this one is helpful for stress. And so if you were looking for like an analog way, like a non-digital way to start to move your body through grief, a lot more people are picking up books now than picking up phones and computers. That's a beautiful book for moving your body in the aftermath of loss. I will say, if you prefer to lean more digital, or if like YouTube or your phone or your computer are more accessible to you, YouTube is full of tons and tons of free videos for grief and anxiety and trauma sensitive yoga or movement. You could search terms like grief stretching or yoga for trauma or gentle movement for heartbreak. I will say that Yoga with Adrienne, it's a whole YouTube channel. This was one of my favorite teachers after my mom died in 2013. And I linked a video of hers that I practiced on the blog that goes with this podcast that you can find at shelbyforsythia.com/blog. And if you are also looking for something low key that is audio only, if you're like, I don't want to watch it, I kind of know poses already, I just want someone to talk to me gently while I stretch, the free app Insight Timer is a marvelous platform for listening to yoga flows and meditations and mindfulness exercises and soothing music and podcasts, and is a lovely thing to put on. There are incremented meditations and yoga poses from like 1 minute all the way up to like an hour. So you can choose like, how much time do you have? Would you like a feminine or masculine voice to be speaking to you? Would you like something religious or non-religious? And it really lets you filter out for your preferences, and you can treat it just like Google, where you're searching grief yoga or stretching for trauma or mindfulness meditation for life after loss, and it will serve you a whole bunch of things that are what you're looking for. And again, this is an ad-free platform. And of course, if you're interested in listening to my podcasts on Insight Timer, you can find so many episodes of Grief Grower as well as Dear Grief Guide, Coming Back, and Grief Seeds, some past podcast episodes of mine on that platform while you stretch and move your body. The next one I have for you is to write, and I'm a little bit biased because I am a grief author, and I really enjoy the power of words to unstick us from places that feel stuck in grief. And grief especially can do this thing where it like puts your brain on overdrive, and a lot of my clients and students say they feel like there is no break from the onslaught of thoughts and emotion. It's just grief all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time, swirling around in their brains. And journaling or writing in any capacity gives those thoughts and emotions a safe landing place to go. And you do not need to be a writer to journal, and you certainly don't have to write with the intention of other people seeing your work. In fact, I would rather you write without the intention of anyone else ever seeing your work. You can go 90s and put an actual lock on your journal if that works for you. And I just really encourage you to have this be a practice that exists for you and your grief, because grief does not care about grammar or run-on sentences or losing your train of thought in the middle of things or writing in all caps and scribbling it out. Grief does not care about that, but it is cathartic to put words to your grief. So as you're journaling or writing about life after loss, you might write a letter to someone who died or to the version of yourself that you lost. In Life After Loss Academy, we talk about grieving the person you used to be. You could write a letter to them or to that life that can no longer be. You might write what you're afraid to say out loud, or I wish I could tell someone, insert thing here, or I wish a loved one knew, or I wish I had the capacity to make other people understand, ... and then go from there. Or even simply just say, right now I feel, and then insert whatever comes after that. If a blank page feels overwhelming to you, you might pick up my non-religious daily devotional, which is called Your Grief Your Way, and write something every day inspired by the day's entry. There are 366 entries in Your Grief Your Way. Again, they are all non-religious, and they deal with a bunch of grief's sort of different topics. So there's entries about dealing with a loved one's possessions or stuff after they die. There's an entry about dreaming about grief or having nightmares about grief. And there's an entry about coping with friends and family. There are multiple entries about coping with friends and family who don't seem to understand. So you might read the day's passage and then just journal your thoughts as sort of like a sistered project to do them side by side. And if you're looking for even more structure, I always encourage you to join us in Life After Loss Academy, which includes more than 60 guided video lessons you can watch on your own time. And every single one of them has a journaling prompt or writing exercise that gets you thinking and writing about the many aspects of loss. And there are many. Okay, number 4 is to sing or play music. This is also inspired by my wife and myself, because one of the biggest things we talked about when we met is the power of music. And music is something that connects me to my mom. It's something that connects me to my best friend. It's even something that connects me to my cat, because we had some songs that we would sing together, him meowing, me singing, during dinner time. And I think a lot of people underestimate sound as an outlet for coping with loss. So whether you have the ability to play an instrument or sing or just have a concert for yourself in the car or shower, or just listen to a playlist that makes you cry or makes you dance, music is a wonderful thing that can help you get unstuck, there's that word again, and reconnect you with your physical body. Singing has a lot to do with the breath, and especially if you are playing a piece of music or thinking through lyrics, it requires some brain and some emotion to use. And so it kind of connects all these things together, the physical act of breathing, but also the logic or the formula of following chords or a song, and then also the heart element of putting your heart and soul, maybe literally, into the music that you are singing or performing or listening to. You could create a grief playlist of songs that match your emotional state, whether that's rage or sadness or nostalgia. You might pick up and play an instrument that's been gathering dust in your house, or you might try singing a song, a new rendition of a song that your person or pet loved. I invite you to let music be both a container and a sort of release for your grief. When the world, the society that we live in, expects you to keep functioning while your inner world, everything that you knew to be true or know to be true, has shattered, finding ways to take care of yourself or cope in life after loss can feel really impossible, especially when you are emotionally exhausted or you have very little money to work with, which is true for more and more people in 2025. So this is an episode that I created to remind you that finding comfort in grief, accessing support in grief, caring for yourself in grief does not have to be complicated or expensive. When the world, the society that we live in, expects you to keep functioning while your inner world, everything that you knew to be true or know to be true, has shattered, finding ways to take care of yourself or cope in life after loss can feel really impossible, especially when you are emotionally exhausted or you have very little money to work with, which is true for more and more people in 2025. So this is an episode that I created to remind you that finding comfort in grief, accessing support in grief, caring for yourself in grief does not have to be complicated or expensive. Number 5 here marks our halfway point of this list of 10, and that is to let yourself sleep. This is kind of a gimme one, but I want you to consider sleeping more than you think you should, because grief is exhausting on every single level, physical, emotional, spiritual. And I want you to know, from me to you, that you are not lazy or a failure if you sleep, or if sleep is your response to the overwhelm of grief. Rest is healing. Rest is reparative, and even a short nap can help you de-stress your brain and body. After my mom died, I found myself longing for bedtime. I would go to bed so early in ways that I never had before, and I would sleep sometimes as many as 12 hours a night. And after my best friend died in 2022, I would often set my computer to out to lunch mode during work hours so that I could have a nap in the middle of the day, because I just needed to turn my brain off and be flat. So many grievers describe life after loss as exhausting. And my response to that is, if you can rest more, rest more. It may feel like a boring thing to do or a useless thing to do, and it might not feel like it in the moment, but over time, a little bit of added rest helps your body and your brain and your heart and even your spirit a lot. I will say, if you're a person who struggles to sleep in the aftermath of loss, you might try laying down with your eyes closed for 20 minutes, and that still counts as a form of rest. And if you struggle with nightmares surrounding loss, you might check out the Grief Grower episode I did with Dr. Joshua Black a few episodes back. He is an expert on grief dreams, and the tips that he shares in that episode might help you shift from having nightmares to having positive dreams or visitations that can help you cope with and process all of the emotions that are coming up with your grief. And as a bonus, he shares some writing exercises in there too. So if journaling or writing was your thing, you can absolutely take away some things to write about how you sleep and pair 2 of these grief activities together. All right, number 6 is entirely my wife's idea. She's popping up a lot in this episode today, but that is to surround yourself with warmth. We are people who like being warm. I joke about preheating the bed and how I will enjoy a warm beverage at any time of year. So both of us are in this camp of heat can be medicine. Whether you are brewing a hot cup of tea or sipping warm broth or soup or simply holding a mug of hot chocolate, this is my personal favorite, Having something warm near you or touching your body can help regulate your nervous system and bring you back to the present moment. You can choose to make this a ritual, which is like something small you do every day to signal to your body you are safe, you are held, it is okay to relax, or you can kind of do it sporadically as needed or in really dark evenings or nights where like the grief feels overwhelming and you don't know what else to do other than make a cup of tea. If you want bonus heat, if like more warmth only sounds good or better to you, you could do things like surround yourself in a soft blanket. You could put your whole body in a warm bath. You could add a heating pad to your bed, or this is something I did after my mom died, wear a loved one's sweater or sweatshirt for extra layers of warmth. Warmth is something that reminds us that we are held, that we are safe, that it is okay to relax. And it is so often associated with things like getting massages or taking care of ourselves in a shower or bath, or being soothed by nourishing food. And so anything you can do to sort of activate those memories for yourself, whether you're eating something or putting your body in the bathtub or putting a heating pad on your feet or your neck, those are all lovely things that can help your body find comfort and rest in the midst of grief. And again, bonus points if you pair them with something else on this list, like taking a nap or sleeping more often. Bonus points for you there. Okay, number 7 is one of my personal favorites because I am an animal person through and through, and that is to spend time with animals and pets, whether they are yours or you borrow them from other places. Please don't go around stealing animals, but they are little beings that can help you with grief. And so many grieving people say that animals do not judge you. They just sit with you in life after loss, and that can feel like its own sort of blessing in a society where humans demand certainty and answers and clear words to describe your grief. And sometimes we simply do not have that. Many people describe being with animals as a form of unconditional love, and that can be really healing when you are feeling just flattened by loss. So if you do have a pet, if you share your home with an animal, consider devoting some extra time to feeding them or brushing them or grooming them or sitting with them or cleaning their little cage or enclosure or walking them. Just like spending time, your energy with their energy, your life in the room with their life in the room. It can be a sort of uplifting thing to do. And if you don't have a pet, or if you're grieving the loss of a pet, I see you out there, and you are not interested in welcoming another one into your home right now, consider you can visit animals in other places. I'm thinking animal shelters or rescue organizations. You might also ask a friend or a family member if you can walk their dog or cuddle their cat or babysit their turtle for an afternoon. You might also choose to admire animals from a distance. Things like bird watching can be helpful for this. You might visit a local or a national park where you could see wildlife, again, like birds, or I'm thinking like wolves or deer or coyotes. You might spend some time on a farm, especially if you're in a more rural area, or you might get yourself tickets to a zoo or an aquarium or nature sanctuary that is in your neighborhood. And a lot of places will offer like free days or discount days or student days or bring the family days as ways to get cheap or discounted tickets if that resonates with you. But simply just being in the presence of animals and looking at these living things in nature is a really wonderful way to connect with something else that is alive besides you while you are grieving. Number 8, if I had to guess, would be one of my mom's favorites, and this is inspired by her, and that is to try a simple art or craft project. Creativity of any kind is really marvelous at giving grief a shape and a place to go in the world outside of your head and your heart. A lot of people describe grief as like it's spinning around in my head or it's just swirling around in my heart. There's a lot of like spinning motions, and making something with your hands or drawing something or painting something or crafting something is a way to take all of that swirling, shifting, spiraling energy and force it to go somewhere outside of yourself. And that can feel like a relief when you're grieving. And so many of my clients and students, and I have personally enjoyed things like doodling or sketching. In Life After Loss Academy, I encourage people to draw a picture of what does your grief look like. And we've had everything from things that look like dementors to things that look like giant, like buff bouncers at a bar that won't let anybody or anything in. It's really fascinating to use the prompt of draw your grief. What does your grief look like? And see what people come up with. Watercolor painting. I had a client once who turned to watercoloring flowers after her daughter died. A lot of grieving people really enjoy creating a memory box or a grief altar. We are now on the heels of Dia de Muertos, and creating a grief altar in your home is a way of being creative if you feel like you are not necessarily like a painter type or like a pastel or a drawing sort of type. Gathering objects together, curating something, as my friend Charlene Lamb of Curating Grief says, is its own kind of creativity. I would be remiss if I did not mention my day job, floral design, putting flowers together, whether you pick them out of your yard or pick them up from a grocery store or go to a fancy boutique florist and get really beautiful and expensive flowers. Putting flowers together is a great way to cope with grief. Making pottery or painting ceramics is a wonderful way to use your hands while you're grieving. My wife is into what we call string sports, knitting, crocheting, embroidering, sewing, lace making. These are all things you can do with your hands to process grief, and there are wonderful collections and collaborations online. If you search like grief quilts, you will see a bunch of stories of people folding stories of loved ones into string sports creations that they make. And then finally, molding clay or Play-Doh. Again, these are things that you use your hands to craft something new that wasn't there before, and also quieting the thoughts and emotions that are spiraling in your head, or giving them some physical place to go that is outside of your inner world. Number 9 is another one of my favorites. This is just a list of my top 10 greatest hits in coping with grief and loss, but a really free thing that most of us, all of us, have access to is immerse yourself in nature. It doesn't have to be animals, just nature. And the gift of nature is that in all seasons, it has this really calming presence that can hold and tend to grief without rushing you through it. So whether you find a tree in your yard or a patch of grass in your neighborhood or a bench at a park or a local community garden to wander through, I invite you to sit and to breathe and to just simply exist in nature as a piece of nature. You are a piece of nature. I am a piece of nature. Let nature hold you and all of your grief emotions. I remember very vividly one client of mine in Life After Loss Academy sought out bodies of water, doesn't matter the type of body of water, after her daughter died. And whether she was near a river or a lake or a pond or an ocean, the movement of light on the water and the sound of it rippling or crashing or tumbling over rocks was something that brought her an immense amount of peace in the aftermath of loss. Just the sound of it, just the presence of it. In 2020, I had the opportunity to interview the author Cheryl Strayed, who wrote the book Wild. And I've mentioned this a few times here on Grief Grower, but she taught me about her mom's practice of seeking out beauty in the world and especially in nature. And so if this resonates with you, you could play a game of Grief I Spy, looking for beautiful plants that your loved one might enjoy, or seeking out living things that start with each letter of the alphabet. So A for aphids, B for beetles, C for neighbor's cat, D for dogwood trees. You could find all sorts of things that are around you and play a sort of beauty I Spy game, or you could collect 5 pretty things to take pictures of before you head home. I encourage you to leave nature in nature unless it's permissible to pick up things like pine cones or pebbles or shells wherever you are. But taking pictures of things is a beautiful way to remember what you did that day and sort of create an album or a catalog of your grief. And something I love about nature is that whether it is spring or fall or the darkness and barrenness of winter, nature is a lovely reminder that there is life and death and growth and healing happening constantly all over top of each other. And not just, it is only good to grow, or it is only good to bloom, or it is only good to expand, which is often the myth that society tells us, is that the only good and valid growth is the kind that goes up and to the right and is linear, and you're always getting bigger and you're always getting better. And nature's like, that's not true. That's not the truth of being alive. And so to be in a world, in the real world, in nature, where life and death and growing and breaking and healing and repairing are all happening simultaneously, that is a very grounding thing to do when you're grieving. And finally, number 10 is to watch shows or listen to podcasts or read books about grief. Many of them you can access very, very low cost or for free. There is an immense amount of comfort to be found in the stories and experiences of the people I call those who have gone before. And whether you choose a fictional piece of media, like a TV show or a movie, or something that is based in real life, like a memoir or a podcast, there are countless pieces of media, movies, TV shows, podcasts, books, blog articles about grief and living life after loss. You might try searching for grief on Google. You might try searching for grief or loss on your streaming service. You might try searching for it in your local library's catalog, in your local bookstore, your favorite podcast app, wherever you obtain media right now. I vividly remember it was 2015 or 2016 when I got my very first grief book haul from the Chicago Public Library after my mom died. And those few stories, that tiny little handful of 3 or 4 books, made me feel, even though I didn't get all the way through all of them, they all introduced me to a whole world of grief guides that continue to support me today. It was as if suddenly this light bulb went on of other people have grieved and they have put work into the world about it. They have put media into the world for me to consume about it. And suddenly it was I could not get enough. And that is true still to this day. If you're looking for a place to start, obviously you are here in Grief Grower, which is a free podcast all about grief and loss. You might also be interested in reading my blog if you prefer to read instead of listen. It has articles filled with helpful and practical articles on living life after loss. Or you can watch my free workshop on my website, shelbyforsythia.com/links, which includes 3 of my clients' favorite tools for navigating life after loss. And it's just a little 60-minute workshop of here are the best 3 things my clients say I teach, all in one place. I will say, you might even it depends on how, I suppose, extroverted you are or interested in other people's input you are, but to even ask on social media or in your friend and family groups or in your workplace, what is a movie or a TV show or a book that you've consumed recently that has a griefy theme? People will tell you. People love giving suggestions about what they're watching or what they're listening to or what they're reading at the moment. And that is a way that you can ask people in your life to be helpful in grief, is to make recommendations like that to you, especially people know you very well. They know your tastes. They know what you enjoy watching or reading or listening to. Looking to people who have given you good advice or good recommendations in the past are tremendous ways to find grief guides in the world who have created media that might resonate with you. Before I sign off for the day, the thing I want to leave you with in offering you these 10 activities is the reality that navigating grief does not have to be expensive or time-consuming. Again, there is this advice or this wisdom in society that pathologizes grief. That's oh, you're grieving, maybe you need to see someone. And while coaching and therapy can be really helpful, many grievers, especially in the early months and years after a loss, are not looking for that deep 50-minute, sometimes expensive, intense work to cope with loss. They are looking for small and manageable ways to fold grief into their everyday life. So if this is you, welcome. This is the episode for you. These 10 comforting, low-cost, or free activities are not about avoiding the deep, hard work of grief or saying therapy is bad, because therapy absolutely has its place. I have a therapist right now and I love her. These activities are about creating these tiny moments or pockets of presence and connection and comfort and relief as you figure out how you would like to carry your unique loss or losses. They can all be done in tandem with personal or group grief support, or they can be done all on their own. The choice is up to you. You can decide which of these resonate most with you in this season of your grief and come back and revisit them again, maybe a year from now, and say, what other activities would I like to fold in? What would I like to set down? What would I pick up? Again, in my first book, Permission to Grieve, I refer to life after loss as an involuntary scavenger hunt. You didn't want to be here, but now you're going through the dark woods of grief, picking up and seeing, does this work? And setting it down if it doesn't, and picking up, does this work? And if it does, put it in your pocket, take it with you as you continue to explore the ginormousness of what is life after loss. And yes, paying for things like therapy, coaching, a grief retreat, taking your grief on vacation, going on a cruise. These are all things you can do in life after loss. But in this day and age, not everyone has the time and money to do these things. And so having a buffet of activities that are all helpful for grief, that are very little money or no money at all, and honestly don't take a lot of time unless you decide to sleep for a long time, are really lovely ways to be this is how I'm managing grief. This is how I'm living, being a grieving person in a time and an era and a season and a political climate where it is not always easy to find meaningful, large pockets of time to cope with life after loss, not to mention the cost that you may accrue from doing that. So if you take even one activity from this list and go do it in the world, I hope that it reminds you that you are worthy of care and tending to, even in your darkest seasons. I am sending you so so much love. That's all for this episode of Grief Grower. Thank you very much for joining me on the show today. If you're looking for grief support beyond the show, you can find free workshops, blog articles, and my signature What's Your Grief Support Style quiz at shelbyforsythia.com/links. And if you'd like to get support from me for your unique loss experience, you can join us in Life After Loss Academy, which is my online course and community. Inside, I will walk you through my 5-step grief method, GRIEF, for rebuilding after loss, and you can get live coaching from me every single week to answer your questions. Replays are always available if you can't attend live, and it's just $33 a month to join, or $22 a month if you're a marginalized or financially stressed griever. You can cancel at any time. If this podcast felt validating, comforting, educational, or helpful to you as you navigate life after loss, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And be sure to share Grief Grower with a friend, because you never ever know what someone you love is going through in this season. Grief Grower is hosted by me, Shelby Forsythia, and the theme music is composed by our own Addie Goldstein. Until next time, I see you. I am so proud of you and the work that you're doing in the world. And I love you. Because even through grief, we are growing.